As a final step in our project that we're working on, we're going to look at how we can insert HTML into a specific region on our page. We're going to be using a div tag that we already have on our page that doesn't display currently, but we're going to use that as a hook to be able to break down the estimate. So tell the number of bottles, the total shipping charge, and the tax being charged. If we look at our HTML, you can see that I have a div with an ID of results. Currently nothing displays inside of that div. But if we go into the browser and if I open up the developer tools, I'll show you what this looks like. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of my page and I'm going to use my document.getElementById, and we're going to pass on that we want to target the results div, and we're going to use a property called inner HTML. And I'm just going to make that equal to some text that I want to display on the page. When I do this and I click enter or return, you can see that now the text that I wrote is displaying on the page. So I can use this to see what's in something, and I can also use it to see what goes in there and set it to display something that goes in there. So we're going to use this property to be able to augment our page. I'm going to go back into my HTML editor, and we're going to come down to the bottom of the page, and I'm actually going to copy this line right here, because we'll start by making a line that's going to be similar, but we'll change a couple things. So we're going to use document.getElementId, but instead of targeting text estimate, we're going to put in our results. And instead of getting the value, I want to get the inner HTML. So we'll use the inner HTML property. And then I'm going to make that equal to something. Well, what I want to display is I want it to say total bottles ordered. And because that is a string that I want to appear on the page, I'll enclose that inside of the quotes like we've done before. And I'm just going to add a semicolon at the end of the statement. I'll copy this statement because we're going to call this multiple times. I always want to target the same results div, so we'll leave the beginning part of the statement the same, but the message is going to change. So instead of total bottles ordered, we'll say total shipping fees, and we'll say tax. You can see inside of my single quotes I have an extra space, and that's so that the results of what I'm going to pull in aren't going to just be right next to the additional text. I want to have a space in there, so I include that within my string. If I go ahead and save my page and display in the browser now, you can see that it's only displaying tax, which is the last one that we have requested. The reason that that's happening is because we are using the equal sign, which is resetting what we want to appear inside of results every time. So in order to change this, I'm going to use plus equals on the second and third items. Now if I resave the page and we go back into the browser and refresh it, you can see that it does show all of the three fields: total bottles ordered, total shipping fees, and the tax. Now everything is going to appear on one line until the width of that div forces tax to wrap. Because we want each of these items to be on their own separate lines, we're going to also include a break tag. So after the first and second listing, I'll add a BR tag. And if we save the page and refresh in the browser, you can see that now each of the fields is on its own line. So now it's pulling in the text. Now what we want to have happen is, in addition to the text, we want the values for these items to appear. Most of that stuff has already been set up inside of our document, so we'll just have to pull that in to our JavaScript that we're currently using. For the total bottles ordered, if we come up to our shipping cost, you can see that we're using this statement right here, where we're adding the values of water, orange raspberry, water cucumber mint, and water strawberry basil. So we're going to augment this slightly. I am going to copy the shipping cost line of code, and we're just going to add another variable here. So I'll keep my var keyword. I'm going to paste this in, and we're going to change this to a comma at the end so it will allow us to display multiple variables in the same var keyword definition block. I'm going to change this from shipping cost to total bottles, and we're just going to make it equal to the values of the 3 types of waters added together. So it doesn't matter what you put in there, it'll go ahead and display the total number of bottles. Now that I'm using the total bottles variable, I can shorten this line of code as well by, instead of implicitly writing all that out, I can just use the new variable total bottles multiplied by the shipping cost per to get my shipping costs. So now that I've defined the total bottles variable, I'm going to come into my inner HTML statement for total bottles ordered, and I'm going to insert total bottles here. Now if we save the page and look at our browser, you can see that it's displaying total bottles ordered and then displaying the text total bottles. The reason that this is occurring is because we're still treating the total bottles variable as a string because it appears within our quotes. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a string appear first. Then we're going to use the plus operator to add in the total bottles variable. Then we're going to use the plus operator again and add a string around the BR tag. If we save our page now and refresh it, you can see that now the total bottles ordered is displaying 0, which is the value that we want. If I change this value to something else, you can see it's going to update with the new number of bottles that we've placed in there. So by using concatenation, we're able to add multiple items to inner HTML, and we can use a combination of strings and variables or whatever else you want to include in there. So now let's go ahead and let's add the total shipping. Total shipping is going to be pretty much the same way. Now we've already calculated what the shipping cost is, so we already have that variable available. I'm going to come into the statement I have for the total shipping, and again we want to display the string of text total shipping. Let's add a $sign in there as well. Then I'm going to close the string. We'll add the plus sign, put the name of the variable shipping cost, add the plus sign again, and then we'll make our BR tag appear as a string as well. If we save now and refresh in the browser, you can see that it's giving me my total number of bottles and it's updating the shipping fees. And if we change this to a different shipping and estimate the total, the fees are going to change. So that's now populating the shipping fee section. Now we need to show the tax. We calculated the tax up here by using the variable of tax factor. And I'm going to come down into my code. If we do what we did before and just add in the name tax factor and save our page and view it in the browser, you can see that it's displaying a tax of 1. If I choose my tax of California and estimate the total, it's displaying the text as the number that we're using to do our multiplication. We don't really want to show this number, we want to show it as a percentage. So what we can do is we can convert this into a percentage. The other thing that we want to do is we want to subtract the 1 off from the beginning, because if we choose a state that doesn't have taxes, we don't want it to display the 1. So we need to get rid of the 1 and then convert the rest of the value to a percentage. We can do that by passing on inside of parentheses that we want tax factor to subtract 1 from the total, and then to convert this to a percentage, I'm going to surround the tax factor mathematical statement within quotes as well and multiply by 100. That will change this to a percentage. And let's also concatenate on that we want to display the percent sign. So if we save now and we go back into the browser, you can see that it is displaying the number. Now the number is not a pretty number. We want to round this number. So you probably remember how we were able to solve that before. We were able to use the toFixed method, and we'll go ahead and put that right after the multiplication. We're going to add toFixed, and we'll just pass on that we want to display 2 numbers. So now if we save the page and we come back into the browser and refresh, You can see that the total gets estimated, it gives me a summary of the number of bottles, and it shows my shipping fees as well as the tax percent. If we switch to California, which actually has the tax of 7.5, we can estimate the total and it'll give us that information as well. So this is how we can update the contents of a region on the page using inner HTML, and we've also performed some string concatenation and a couple of other things. Hopefully this demonstration has gotten you more familiar with how you can use JavaScript to dynamically update and change things on a page.